Latinos are increasing the share of the U.S. electorate, determining elections and shaping public policy affecting not just Latinos, but all Americans. And yet, around half of all eligible Latinos chose not to vote in last year's elections. What would happen if more Latinos engaged in the policy and political process? And what happens if they don't? To help us unpack this and other interesting questions, we have Erica Bernal-Martinez, the CEO of the National Association of Elected Officials, in the studio.
NALEO. So we're actually two sister organizations that work very closely together. NALEO, the National Association of Latino Elected and Appointed Officials, is a membership association of Latino elected and appointed officials across the country. Next year in 2026 is our 50th anniversary, founded by Congressman Edward Roybal, the first Mexican-American elected to Congress from California. And he started the organization because he saw at the time that really neither party was doing much to support Latinos in the political process. And he felt that there was a space that was needed to bring Latino officials together beyond party affiliation, to have a common agenda and a networking opportunity and a system of support as they were pursuing public policy changes on behalf of the Latino community. NALEO Educational Fund, our sister organization, does all of our programmatic work. We do professional development and training for elected officials. We promote U.S. citizenship among those that are eligible, nonpartisan voter engagement. We encourage Latinos to participate in the census every 10 years. And we also do some policy work at the federal level on issues related to how Latinos are able to engage in the political process.
Yeah. You've been with NALEO for a bit now. Help us kind of understand a little bit, how your life experiences have equipped you for you to be in this position to lead one of the most important Latino organizations in the country.
Yeah, that's a great question. I come from a family of Mexican immigrant parents who met, married in the U.S. after they had come here to pursue the American dream, like so many others. Grew up really not understanding the larger context of politics. Sort of, we had our own life kind of getting through every day. And coming out of high school, I actually wanted to be a high school civics teacher because I was fascinated by just of politics and how decisions were made. Uh, and during my college experience, ended up volunteering for NALEO, which is how I got started. It was completely by accident, or maybe destiny, as someone recently said it. And my parents, little did I understand at the time, had become U.S. citizens at a workshop that NALEO had hosted in the mid-1990s. And so when I went to work for NALEO, my parents like, wait, I know NALEO. They helped me become a U.S. citizen. And somehow things had come full circle. After 25 years with the organization, I've held every hat, from volunteer, from organizing citizenship workshops, helping to raise money, leading our communications efforts, leading our trainings for elected officials, and most recently had the opportunity, as our former CEO retired after 30 years of incredible service to our community and to the organization, had a chance to step into this role, right? And it's rolling up your sleeves, having a servant attitude, learning, right? Stretching into things that are uncomfortable and that you maybe didn't know how to do before, but you're willing to learn, and surround yourself with people who are just as smart or smarter than you to help you get the job done. And here we are, working to serve our community, working to serve Latino elected officials and help them be effective as they're looking to change and transform their communities.
Yeah. I want to hit on something you mentioned. You're saying that your parents working hard, probably not engaged in the political process, following, every bill that was happening in Sacramento or in Washington. That was my experience too. I think for I can't remember a time when my parents didn't have two jobs. They were just trying to make ends meet.
Yeah.
I think they loved, our country. They appreciated the opportunities that we had that,
Yeah.
sadly, in Mexico, we didn't. I guess my question is, how do you help, somebody who is working two jobs, or a single mom who, feels disconnected to the work that, frankly, you're doing, that, a lot of Washington lawmakers are doing? How do you help them, connect the dots and say, hey, this actually does matter and you should get involved?
Yeah, my experience, as I'm sure it was yours, is that my parents also cared very deeply about their children, about their family, about the opportunity they had come to pursue and the life that they hoped to leave to the next generation. And I think one important thing that we need to do more of is continue to reach out to our community. As we do research, one of the consistent challenges that people say, well, I don't know where my voting booth is, or what my options are for voting. When is the election? What time is it open? And so this very basic principle of just getting more information into people's hands because they're so busy, because they're working multiple jobs, because they're raising their children, because they're managing life and sometimes hardship, there isn't space to go and look for this information when it's not readily available. So organizations like NALEO and so many others that do work to get information into our community, especially those that are not very likely to participate, who aren't getting 20 mailers every election cycle, who aren't hearing from political campaigns or candidates. Those are the individuals that really have an opportunity to engage by putting more information into their hands and ensuring that they're hearing about the political process.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. I think one of the connections I like to make is that, the property taxes, your child's education, issues that really are almost personal to Latino community, like immigration. And like, we've got, we live in a democracy where we have an opportunity to talk to our elected officials, shape policy. And to me, I think it's one of those things that as a kid I didn't get, but I think as I get older, I'm like, this is pretty amazing. I want to stay on this though, because actually in preparing for this conversation, I was like typing up like, okay, how many Latinos voted in last year's election?
Yeah.
And NALEO came up first, and it punched out a number. But what I was struck by was that only around a little over half of Latinos voted in last year's election, and I thought that was it made me stop and I thought, I wanted to ask you, what do you make of that? Why do you think some Latinos are choosing not to engage in the political process? And I guess, how do we counter that?
Yeah, it's a great question. So much has been done to analyze the Latino electorate, but really the general electorate. And I think that's a really important point that Latinos didn't perform unlike many other segments of the general electorate. One, I think it's important to note we've had steady growth in the Latino electorate over the last decade, some very interesting shifts in political preferences. I think we're no longer a monolith. We can no longer be taken for granted by any party as a community. Candidates and parties have to continue to work really hard to ensure that they're speaking to the issues that our community cares about. But at the end of the day, I think it's a very unique election, right? There was a sense of things are not headed in the right direction. Pocketbook issues were absolutely top of mind for our community, and people were not feeling my share of the American dream. The economy isn't working for me. And with so much also rhetoric in the political system where a lot of partisanship, I think people feel like I just don't have the energy and to engage, or may feel that they weren't being spoken to or engaged in the process. We did some research right before the election, and maybe, 45 days out, a significant segment of our community said, I have not heard from a candidate. I have not heard from a campaign. So when there's that lack of engagement, and again, life is happening and you don't feel that things are necessarily working in your direction, there's lots of other things that take your time and require your attention.
Yeah.
And so all those things converged, and I think it's not unique to Latinos in the last election cycle, but it certainly is something we must continue to do. People, I think it's always helpful to remember Latinos have this spirit of optimism and hope that has always characterized us. And it's true today, Israel, even though people talk about all the challenges that they may be experiencing in life. I just saw a recent study out of a university in Texas that sort of noted that even online, Latinos stop for content that is joyful, that helps them grow somehow personally and learn something, and that creates a sense of community. And so that spirit of optimism and hope, I think, is very much still alive in our community. And folks are looking not just for the negative reasons to come out and vote, but a positive vision for what their life can be and what they're aspiring to.
Yeah, I know. I think that's absolutely true. And I, when you talk about this, I just wonder, what would it look like if, we had, 85, 90% Latino participation? And I think that, I think it would be so I'd love to hear you kind of about that. But then the other thing too, I think that we should also stop to acknowledge is that we have a lot of Latinos in Congress.
Yes.
Secretary Rubio, I think, is the highest ranking Latino official in our country's history.
Right.
So I think for some people who might be looking at this and might say like, well, in many ways Latinos are kind of making it or have made it, so I guess maybe either respond to both or one of those.
Yeah, no, there's no doubt that we've achieved a lot of milestones as a community, both as voters. Again, we have seen a trajectory of growth over the last decade, notwithstanding the last election. And we've also seen Latinos achieve new lengths of influence and power. You just noted Secretary Rubio at the highest level, but you see those kinds of barriers breaking in state legislatures and state executive office, in communities that have never had a Latino serve in public office. There are Latinos serving in 43 of the 50 states, which is extraordinary because we're serving in Alaska, we're serving in Iowa, and other parts of the Midwest, and Hawaii. And when you look at the diversity of our community and multi-generational, right? Some are immigrants who have are serving in public office. Others have been here for multiple generations. It's a story of a lot of depth. It's a story of a lot of richness and a commitment to public service and wanting to make our communities better. That is my experience as I talk to hundreds of elected officials across the country every year. They are driven by wanting to make a difference or driven by wanting to serve their communities and transform them and make life better for the people that they represent.
Yeah, absolutely. To that end, I know you just held your big annual conference in Atlanta, and I had a chance to watch it. I was struck by, I think, just your tone of, I think, acknowledging the moment we're in. I thought there's a lot of really great points you were getting across, but one that really caught my attention was one where you said something like, we can't serve our people if we're at each other's throats, something along those lines. Talk to me a little bit about that, because I think a lot of Latinos who are watching are saying, I turn on the news and it seems like they're at each other's throats. Doesn't seem like they're serving me. How do we break that, I guess?
Yeah, that's something I spend a lot of time thinking about as an organization that is nonpartisan, but by design is about keeping Democrats, Republicans, Independents, and everyone else in between at a space where they can engage in conversation. My experience is that when you get to very local things, everyday life things, people have much more in common than they don't. Everybody cares about having effective, safe, clean schools for their kids. Everyone cares about feeling safe in their communities. Everyone cares about the opportunity to live their life in a way that allows them to thrive and, again, leave something behind for the next generation. And so much of the space that we aim to create at NALEO is really focused around how do we make these things happen for the people that our members serve. And there is absolutely a difference in opinions and worldviews and perspectives on how you achieve those solutions. But I think part of what we learned in our work is that the solutions don't look the same for everybody. People have different experiences, different priorities. Each community is different. Some are rural, some are urban, some are big, some are small. And that there's nuance then in how these things are achieved. And we spend a lot of time working at NALEO on the skill um, of encouraging our members to learn how to listen, to learn how to look for that little window of opportunity for collaboration, for a common agenda, and understand and to some extent accept that there's going to be maybe a lot that they don't agree with on their colleagues, but that progress and making communities better and achieving some successes for as many people as possible is worth the effort of engaging with those you may not agree with and engaging with those who see the world in a different way. Not easy work, Israel, in today's environment. And what I find is that as we get closer to the ground, that's a bit easier to achieve. It is unfortunate, though, that in today's environment, sort of that national tension is really trickling down to the local level as well. But NALEO is committed to helping our members remember why they ran for office,
Right.
who it is that they do this for, which is for the people who they serve, and that those people deserve solutions. They deserve a better life, and they deserve their elected officials to, fulfill the commitments they made when they were campaigning. It's the other reason sometimes Latinos don't vote. They feel they ask for my vote, they win, and I never hear from them again, right? And there needs to be accountability in our political process.
I don't know if you knew this, but I got my start working for Ileana Rose-Lehtinen. And to me, she was exactly that kind of
Incredible leader.
incredible leader. And I think one of the things I admired most about her was some of her best friends were Democrats. She never it was like, we're all doing this together, and it was really cool. And I think one of the things that I think she did a lot, and I think back in the day people did this more often. They just break bread together or go out after work and hang out. And so I just wonder, how do we get there?
Yeah.
But you're feeling optimistic. You feel like you've seen this in state capitals, and you're seeing it.
We're seeing it. I think we have to stay optimistic because if we don't, then it's hard to get up in the morning when you sort of look at the challenges that we're facing, particularly in this moment in our democracy. But I believe in doing one thing one day at a time, right? And so we're reaching one member, one community, one constituent at a time as we're helping them succeed and do their work. And we're going to keep doing that because that's what we have to do. Just like our community has persevered over time, with so much to get to this point, right? And from one generation to the next, you see incredible stories of success, right? And parents passing along a better future through their sacrifice and their grit and commitment. Um, that's what motivates me every day. I have 2 kids. I have 2 daughters. I hope to leave them a better world than what I found, and to instill in them that same spirit of service and wanting to help other people and make things better. And the only way to do that is by practicing that ourselves. And so those are the values. That's the culture we have at NALEO. It's what we are working to instill in our members, and encourage them to look deeper, farther, to imagine what is possible, not just what isn't. And not easy work at this time, but we have to do it because what is the option? Throwing in the towel? I just don't think that's an option. As I think of myself as a mom who's thinking about the world that my girls are going to inherit and that they're going to live in.
Yeah, I think that's right. And I think just to go back to earlier, when I get pessimistic about the future of our country, I think about my parents and how much they sacrificed. And again, like they put so much, they gave up so much rather, so that my sisters and I could live in this country. And so that helps me, reminds me, and then I think about my own family as well. I'd love to keep talking more, but I wonder if for the kind of the end of the conversation, if we could talk to someone who's a Latino or Latina who's thinking about running for office. What would you tell them, and maybe like a piece of advice or something that in your years of working with folks who are you thinking about running for office or are in office, what's something that you feel like would be like a hack, it's like what people say, what's something that you think that would be good,
right? I have to tell you that I think, particularly in this moment, one of the most important things you can do if you're thinking about it, you should do it. We need more people with different experiences, different priorities who are coming to lead and serve their communities. But I would say, listen, talk to your neighbors, talk to the small businesses when you're picking up your coffee at the local store. Hey, what's going on, right? What are you feeling? What are the pain points that you're experiencing? And begin to sort of really listen, right? And to take in what the strengths of your community are, but also what are the pain points that people are feeling. And I think at the end of the day, running for public office should be about providing a vision of what is possible, of how you can contribute to make things better. And a lot of that comes by really understanding what it is that moves people, what people need in your community, and what it is that you can do to contribute to make it better. Then you can go back and ask all those people for a check when you're running for office, because you're going to need to dial for dollars. It's part of the job. And I would say that there's also a process, particularly in today's age, Israel. People have to really be ready, and their communities have to be ready. It is truly, I believe, public service is an honorable calling. Being a politician is not a dirty word. I prefer the word public servant by those that are motivated to helping others. But it comes at a great sacrifice, particularly at local office. You get a stipend. Really, it's like a part-time, sometimes feels like a full-time job that you're not getting paid for. It's going to pull you away from your family. It may pull you away from your job at times. So you need to be driven by the right reasons, and those around you need to understand that they're coming along for the ride. And so that bit of soul searching is an important part of the process because it is demanding. It is a huge sacrifice for the family, sometimes financially as well for the people who do it. But again, the opportunity to leave this long-lasting legacy of change and transformation is a very powerful thing to be able to contribute to our democracy.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Erica, thank you so much for spending some time with us. I really appreciate it. I wish you and NALEO the best of luck. I think the work you guys are doing is tremendous. I think if this experiment of self-government relies on groups like yours to equip people running for office, people who are in office. And so I think the work you guys are doing is incredible. So thank you,
Cheryl. I enjoyed our conversation. Look forward to visiting you again and having you join us at future NALEO events.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.